Welcome back to the podcast, myself, Joseph Clough. For more information about me, go ahead and visit my website, josephclough.com, as well as facebook.com/josephfanpage and twitter.com/josephclough. So I'm really excited today because I've got this wonderful opportunity to interview someone who's got so much information that I just can't wait to share her experience. And her name's Louise, Louise Presley Turner, and she's got this amazing book coming out, and we only met the tail end of last year, but when we got talking we really got on well, and I thought it'd be an absolute privilege to be able to really find out how her book came into fruition and also what we can actually learn from Louise's amazing information. So welcome.
Hello Joseph, thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. So how are you doing today?
Very well indeed, absolutely fine. I've had a client this morning, really productive session with her, so yeah, I'm raring to go.
Fantastic. So I think it's always a good idea to maybe just give my kind of listenership an idea of your background. How did you actually get into personal development?
I actually read a book, and it's going back quite a few years now, and I was a marketing manager, worked for BMW, worked in the corporate world, had done so for many, many years from leaving school and my education, and read a book called Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting by an author called Lynn Grabhorn. And that book, it was amazing. It absolutely changed my life. My life turned a huge corner because it opened my mind up to the possibilities of change and potential. And my journey of self-discovery started personally at that point, and I started reading loads of books, self-help books, mainstream self-help books, to very scientific books on quantum physics and neuroscience, to very sort of spiritual books. And this path, Joseph, eventually led me to coaching. I read a book called The Big Leap by Susie Greaves, and that's the point where I realised, I could be a coach. This is, my career. I had my epiphany, and that's when I decided to retrain as a life coach.
Oh, fantastic. Now, when you began to read your first book, was there anything which caused you to do that? I mean, I'm not trying to say if we have issues or anything, but was there something which kind of made you think, okay, I'm going to start learning about personal development, I'm going to start making changes?
Do you know what's really funny is a friend that I worked with at the time came bouncing into my office one Monday morning, waving this book at me. She said, "You've got to read this. It's awesome." And I remember thinking, oh God, I haven't got time for all this nonsense, this self-help malarkey. And I actually hadn't, Josie, been into self-help until that point in my life. So actually, I took that book from her reluctantly, and it sat on my kitchen work surface for about 3 weeks before I thought to myself, you know what, I better have a flick. I'll have a flick. I'll pretend that I've read it and I'll hand it back to her. And I'm a great believer in fate, and I believe that book was meant for me to read. It was meant that she mentioned it to me, because it was a huge turning point for me, and I really got passionate about its content, and it led me, onto obviously all different paths. So I was very resistant, but I think, it was meant for me to read it.
Which is really interesting, actually, because it does show that although we can be maybe skeptical or resistant to change or to reading information, but when it's the right time for us, even unconsciously, things can just pop out into our awareness, and we can maybe read a book and it suddenly changes our whole course of action in our life, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and I absolutely believe that, and it did for me. It was the right time for me. I think subconsciously I'd been searching for a long time, but I hadn't been brave enough to pursue it in any more depth. So yeah, the universe was definitely nudging me.
Definitely. I think many people can probably resonate with that right now. I mean, just looking for that answer, looking for that direction, or making a change in their life. And I mean, what do you do with your clients? I mean, who do you actually like to help? And how do you make those changes?
I work with people, loads of clients here in the UK, and thanks to Skype, of course, and obviously the telephone, I'm able to coach people in all different countries, all corners of the globe. And essentially, Joseph, my job is to help my clients to transform their life, to get from A to B. So the first thing we do is, of course, take stock, understand where they're at in their life. And then it's about sort of deciding what their objectives are, what their goals are effectively. And then my job is to help them to get there using lots of different coaching tools and techniques. And most people assume coaching is about like having a personal trainer, giving people a boot up the bottom, getting them focused and motivated. And of course, it absolutely is that. But also, and this is, obviously what you do as well, Joseph, it's very much an inward journey. My coaching is very much about the individual understanding themselves, what's going on in terms of their beliefs subconsciously, behaviours, habits, all that kind of stuff that goes on beneath the radar of our awareness. So for me, coaching, yes, it's about setting goals and moving forward, but it's also about changing from within as well.
Definitely. I mean, I always love working with people, whether on a seminars or one-to-one, or even just like these kind of podcasts and interviews and so on. That self-awareness, actually becoming conscious of our desires, because we're not really taught always to be able to believe we can have a wonderful life, to have a great career or relationship or make changes. So that self-awareness process of actualizing and realizing our own goals and dreams is, to me, the first start of being empowered, which allows you to get those goals.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You've got to kind of adopt that can-do attitude. And unfortunately, you're absolutely right. We're not taught at school, are we, how to set goals, how to have self-belief. And, I think it's almost, sucked out of us, isn't it? And we kind of go into the big wide world and we don't really believe that we're worth that much. And I think, coaching and self-development is about empowering people to think, believe I can do this.
Definitely. I mean, just another quick question as well. What would you say is like maybe a tip or two which would allow someone to start making a change?
I think it's a tip to start making a change. I think the first thing is about actually understanding what's working and what isn't working. It's almost being brave enough to say, hey, you know what? My job's not right for me, or hey, this relationship isn't working. It's about actually being brave enough to kind of go, this is what's happening right now, and actually then being prepared to do something about it.
I completely agree. I mean, it also goes on to the aspect of straight from there of taking ownership, becoming aware of this, and then say, actually, I'm going to be brave, I'm going to take responsibility, and I'm going to do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And and that's what, for me, when I'm working with clients, I can only ever help those that want to move forward. I can't force somebody to make changes to their life. It's all to do with them. I'm the facilitator, kind of the midwife, if you like, to their goals or their dreams, but they've got to do the hard work and you've got to be ready to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, I completely agree with you. Now, the most wonderful thing at the moment is for yourself, you've got an amazing book coming out, haven't you?
I have. I'm very excited. It comes out in a couple of weeks' time, and it's called Finding a Future That Fits.
Yeah, I mean, from what we've spoken, I mean, I'll just explain it. We actually met last year at the Hay House Publishers Party, didn't we?
We did, yes.
And so that's where we actually got talking about our books coming out, and we thought it'd be a great idea to actually just really share each other's knowledge and wisdom by doing this interview. Now, when it comes to finding a future that fits, what does that really mean for you? What can you expect the reader to really get value from that?
Well, I think for me, one thing that I've realised through coaching hundreds of people over the last sort of few years is that so many of us aren't on our path, really. We're not on our true path. And I believe so strongly that we all come here to use our skills, our abilities, to live our passions and to make the world a better place. It almost sounds a bit cliche, but I believe that. So the book very much is about taking a coaching journey together. And it's almost a step-by-step toolkit, if you like, of how to transform your life, how to get your life on track, from how to set goals to how to kind of create your plan of action, and then also taking that inward journey, which is just as important. So it's a step-by-step process of how to kind of walk the path, really, and get on your path, live your purpose.
I mean, that to me is absolutely vital, because on the one hand, we can say, well, yes, I'd like to make changes, or I'm conscious that I have this issue or that issue, but I don't know how to make that transition. I don't know how to make those consistent steps. But you're saying the book, Finding a Future That Fits, gives you those steps, that kind of manual of going from where you are to where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. It is like a manual. That's probably a really great way of describing it. It's a bit like, Joseph, having a working with me, but actually not working with me. It's almost like I'm there holding your hand, and the way it's written, is very nurturing, and you feel supported, even though it's a book, and it's full of exercises. So, at the end of each chapter is a home play section where you actually go out into your real life and put what you've learned into play. And I think that's the key, with getting the most from the book, is actually going back out there, implementing those coaching exercises, tools and techniques to make those changes. So, it has the potential to change your life if you're ready for it.
When you say obviously taking these certain actions and doing things, they're so vital in making changes, isn't it? Because we can read a book and there's great, wonderful theory or wisdom there, but we do also need that practical aspect of taking inspired action and knowing what kind of action steps to take, because that really moves us forward. Because we can think the most wonderful things, but if we don't couple it up with taking these actions, as you've said, very much like in your book, then it's very hard to make a movement. So it's really important to actually start applying this and actually have the tool set within the book to actually start applying it.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about action. Coaching is about actions and moving things forward. And that's, the whole premise of the book, really. So, yeah, absolutely.
So we've probably covered this anyway, but what was your motive? What was your energy and intention behind writing this great book?
I think that for me, having coached lots of people, I had sort of quite a strong sort of intuitive feeling. I wanted to get my message out there to more people, and I sort of thought about how to do this. Obviously, when you're working with people on a one-to-one basis, you can only ever work with so many people at one time. So, to me, a book was an obvious way of doing this, or writing articles for magazines. I love writing, always been a bookworm and had a passion for writing. So, writing a book was the obvious route. It was something I'm passionate about, and then I could get it out there to more people and help more people to kind of empower them to change their life.
And do you feel you have like a better coaching style in one area more than another due to personal experience?
Oh, yeah, I'm very passionate, as I've mentioned, about helping people to find their purpose, their passion, their calling. So I do an awful lot around career transition. In fact, the lady I was speaking to earlier was all about kind of moving her career into a different direction. So, probably 80% of the clients that I work with, Joseph, are around exploring their options. So, a lot of work I do around career transition is about what I call the blueprint. So looking at values, looking at passions, interests, building up the blueprint of who you are, and then looking at kind of what options fit, So I can kind of, I've worked with people that, are accountants and turned them into photographers, or work with people that work in IT and turned them into florists, and I'm very passionate about doing that. But I also work with people, with confidence and self-esteem and building that, or work-life balance. So lots of different areas, but primarily, yes, it's around career transition and helping people make their mark on the world.
And really allow their maybe their career, or you could say becoming a hobby now, I guess. I mean, like really being passionate, really loving your job rather feeling it like a chore.
Oh, God, absolutely. And I think, we are, if we can be passionate about what we do, it won't feel like work, and you and I evidently are passionate about what we do. And I love my job. I don't mind sitting up to 10 o'clock at night and writing an article, because that's not work, that's pleasure. And I think, if we can earn a living from something that we enjoy, then, life's fantastic.
Definitely. I mean, the way I see it as well, especially right now, in, say, the past generations, there's very much like a fixed role of having to get the security, having just to do this to work, to really see that as your career. But now there's so many new opportunities where you can actually create your hobby into a business, to be able to put your passion into something and love your job. So therefore, you're spending those 5, 6, 7 days a week, depending how often you work, because it now becomes your hobby. It just transforms your health, your relationships and career, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I think the other thing as well, Joseph, is, and I constantly say this to my clients, that sometimes, we've been so sort of, we think that we have to have one career. I'm a doctor, or I'm a marketeer, or I'm a whatever. And actually, I think with the way things are today and the access to the internet, all that kind of thing, that actually, we have the potential to have a portfolio career where we can have lots of different income streams and do lots of different things, which I think is really exciting. So you can earn money from training, as you do. You can earn money from books. I mean, for me, I earn money from one-to-one coaching, books, my retreats, workshops, lots of different ways of kind of, and I love that, having, a portfolio. So it's just about opening people's awareness up to there isn't necessarily one route. There might be lots of different things that you can do that you're passionate about that can earn you a living.
And I think that's a really important message for people to understand as well, that it's not set in stone straight away. You don't have to carry on doing what you've always done. Whether you be 20 years old, I mean, I was thankful enough to kind of realize a job I wasn't, what I was doing at the time, to not be right for me at 18 years old. So I was very thankful for that opportunity. But I've met the most extraordinary people changing their career at, say, 50, 60 plus, and absolutely loving and taking all their knowledge and wisdom from their job, but making that wonderful transition and doing what they really love. So you could say age has nothing to do with it, does it?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, the coaching call I just had, the lady that I was speaking to had the most amazing idea on the phone. She said, I've had this idea, and I could just feel her energy shift as she was talking about this new idea that she was going to explore. And it's an awesome idea. And absolutely, there's no age limit at all. It's just about sort of taking your ideas. And the key is then about, of course, how to make them happen and not being held back by sort of limiting thoughts or beliefs. And actually just taking one step at a time, and making that goal manifest.
And finding a future that fits really allows that to happen.
It does, yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. It takes you through step by step, and it even talks about how to face your fears, because, of course, any transition, any big goal, any objective that you're working towards is scary. And I think the problem is, Joseph, people run away from that. And actually, you have to embrace, fear is part of the growth process. So, yeah, the book covers all aspects that you will need to cover on your journey, towards change.
Definitely. I mean, and just to kind of finish up a little bit on that as well about fear. I was just doing some writing today, in fact, and I was just thinking. And when you think about our comfort zone, very much familiar zones, but everything was once outside of our comfort zone. Yes. Everything we've done in the world was once unknown to us. So it's important to realize wherever we are right now has come from a place where we didn't know about it once. Yet when we start to take this consistent action and kind of just push beyond our boundaries and expand our mind and body, we can produce the most amazing results, just realizing it's a natural process to go beyond your boundaries.
Yeah, and I think as you do that, you get more comfortable with change. Very quickly, I found an email in my draft folder yesterday that I wrote in 2007, which was the year I started my business. And I was reading it through and sort of looking at the language that I was using and how I was describing myself. The actual email was to an editor of a magazine, a local magazine. And it just, having read it, it amazed me how far I'd come in that period of time, writing now for nationals and stuff like that. And in those early days, my comfort zone was very, very tight, very, very small. My belief was very, very small. And that was so reflected in that email. It was a real eye-opener for me. I've been on a journey and there's been ups and downs, but it's been taking one step after another. And every time I've grown, my self-belief has grown. I've taken bigger and bigger actions. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen slowly, and it's an amazing process.
Absolutely, and I think that's a fantastic learning that everyone can start to just consider right now and just kind of learn from that. Where can people find your information, and especially this wonderful book coming out?
You can find out more about it by visiting my website, which is thegameoflife.co.uk. There's also a free life evaluator and life planner that you can download completely free, and that will help you to really just start your journey. And of course, you can buy the book directly from Hay House or, of course, from Amazon as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you ever so much for being here today and taking this time out your real busy schedule to just help and educate and to speak about this subject, because it is one of those subjects which is so prominent right now that you have the tools within the book, within what you do as a living, which can really move people on. So thank you ever so much for being here today.
Very well. Thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful. So I hope you enjoyed that podcast. For more information about me, once again, go ahead and visit my website, josephclough.com. Also facebook.com/Joseph's fan page even, and also twitter.com/Joseph Clough. Many thanks and goodbye.